Hi to you watching this video. So for this video, we're going to discuss about Formworks, okay? But before we proceed further with this discussion, I strongly suggest that you review your learnings from construction materials in testing with regards to wood, okay? So that you can have a deeper appreciation for our topic. Okay, so what is Formworks? So Formworks is a temporary boarding or sheeting to provide the desired shape and size of concrete mass. So we know when we say concrete, fresh concrete. So let's say fresh concrete. So when we say fresh concrete, it is very workable or it does not have um, any shape yet. Okay, so with the help of Formworks, we can have or we can attain the desired shape and dimension of our concrete when it's already cured. Okay, so Formworks therefore is a form of false work. When we say false work, it is a temporary structure which helps the permanent structure. So ano ibig sabihin nun? Your structural members like your footing, column, beam, slab are uh, permanent structure. Okay? And before we can have this permanent structure, it will first become a fresh concrete. So in order to attain its shape and dimension, we need to have the help of formworks to hold them in place. Okay? And to mold the concrete while it is curing. Okay, so formworks is composed of we have here the board. Okay, so forms, we have the forms, braces, and scaffold. So for the forms, we have here the board, plywood, um, phenolic board. So ito yung board, this is the board, this one. Okay, so it is the one that is the smooth surface that is being placed in front of the concrete face. Okay? So yan yung board. Next would be the braces. So the braces, the function of the braces, ito yan, horizontal, vertical, and we also have the diagonal braces. So though we don't have diagonal here, but sometimes we use diagonal for braces. So what is the function of a brace? So the function of brace alone is to stiffen the board. Kasi kung board lang yan and wala tayong, if we do not have our bracing, then our formworks will explode. Puputok siya. Kasi hindi niya kayang i-counter yung force ng weight ng concrete, ng fresh concrete natin. Okay? And next would be scaffolding. So scaffolding, it is to support the forms and braces. So this one is the scaffolding. Okay, the scaffolding. So it is the one that helps or supports our bracing. Okay, so normally formworks are made of wood. So you have there the plywood, the lumber. Okay, but in modern practices, we are already using GI sheet and GI pipe in substitute for wood. Meron din tayong ginagamit na special type ng plastic to substitute our wood as formworks. And the advantages, or one of the advantage of these materials is they are very much reusable compared to wood. But of course, in terms of costing and or pricing, mas mahal. But in terms of usage, mas matagal siyang magagamit. And it is for long-term usage. Okay? Other materials, gumagamit minsan ng fiberglass and so on. Okay? So that is formworks. So we have here other examples of formworks. So you can see here, this one is made of, or is was yeah made of, this one I think is phenolic board, but the what do you call this, the bracing was made of um what GI pipe. Okay, so GI pipe. So then these are your scaffolding. So likewise with this one also is your scaffolding. So scaffolding, scaffolding. So the scaffolding for column, after 1 to 2 days of curing, pwede nang tanggalin yung ating forms. Okay? Pwede na siyang tanggalin. But for horizontal member, like for example, the beam, the slab, we need at least 14 days or 2 weeks before natin tanggalin yung ating scaffolding or yung ating support, because it still cannot carry its own weight. We need at least 14 days of curing para mabuhat niya yung kanyang sariling weight. Unlike for column, at least 1 to 2 days of curing, pwede nang tanggalin. But you should not apply any load pa. Okay? So these are the examples of your scaffolding. Then, yeah. So this one, you have here your formworks. Formworks here, then formworks here. Because the concrete is only on this part. Okay, so it helps us shape our concrete. Okay, so we can now proceed with our example. In estimating, it is best if we start from bottom to top. Okay, so when we design structures, isn't it that what we do is if this is our structure, what we do is to to design from starting from the top, going down to the beam, to the column, to the footing. Okay, but when estimating, it is otherwise. So we start from the bottom, then we go up. So for this one, we're going to start with footing. Okay, so in this plan, we have here, for this plan, from your plan that I gave you, we have here how many footing? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we have 15 footing pad, and all of which are 300 by 1 meter. 1 meter by 1 meter by 300. Yeah. So 1 meter by 1 meter. And the thickness of the footing pad is 300 mm. Okay. So it would look like this. So if this is my footing pad, ang mangyayari, lalagyan natin dito ng Formworks. So we are going to place here Formworks. Okay, so it would look like this. Okay, so we are going to enclose it in para siyang i-enclose in a box. So our footing would look like this one. Okay, so here we have wait, let me just fix my, okay, so we have here the footing pad. So it is 1 meter by 1 meter, and it has a depth of 0.3 meters. So 0.3 meters, 1 meter by 1 meter. Now, what we need to estimate right now would be the formworks that would enclose our 1 by 1 by 0.3 meter footing pad. So, ang mangyayari niyan, dapat, it should not look like this. Okay? This is the 1 meter, this is the 1 meter. So, what would happen is, one side would overlap the other. Because if we are going to enclose our footing by 1 by 1 only, wala tayong space, or we do not have anything na pagkakabitan natin. But if we are going to extend it, then we can nail our formworks here. Dito natin siya ikakabit. But if we are not going to extend, then there's nothing, or there's no place where we can attach our formworks. Okay? So we are going to extend. So itsura niyan, this one yung nag-extend, itong nag-extend na to, yan, itong nag-extend would be this one. So this one. Then yung nasa loob ng extension, ito is this one. Okay? So we have here our Formworks. So the length or the area of our plywood would then become 1 meter by 3 by 0.3. So that would be 1 times 0.3 times 2 because we have two sides, diba? 1 by 3, 1 by 3. So there are two sides. Plus, this time, this other one here, we have 1 plus an extension of, what would be the length of the extension? Take note for bracing, what we normally use for bracing is a 2 by 2. So for bracing, we use 2" by 2" lang. Okay? This is the typical dimension that we use for bracing. So this dimension here is 2" and the dimension also here is 2". So if there would be an extension, it would only be 0.05. And on the other side, it would also be 0.05. Therefore, the extension here is 0.05 and the extension also here is 0.05. So that is 1 plus 0.05 plus 0.05 times, what is the depth? The depth is 0.3 and we have two sides. Okay? Therefore, the area of our plywood is equivalent to, unahin natin to. So we have 1 plus 0.05 plus 0.05 times 3. Times 0.3 times 2 plus 1 times 0.3 times 2. The area total is equivalent to 1.26 square meters. But the number of footing is equivalent to 15. Diba? We were able to count a while ago. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And if we are to check our footing, we have here identical footing pad dimension. So we have here C1, F1, 1 by 1. F2, we have 1 by 1. And F3, we have 1 by 1. And the depths or the thickness of the footing patch of all of this footing is 0.3 by 0.3 by 0.3. So we can go right away. But if the depth of, for example, the depth of F1 is 0.4, then we're only going to consider F2 and F3 for this computation because the depth we considered here is 0.3. Another solution for 0.4. Okay, so we have the number of footing is equivalent to 15 pieces. Therefore, the area total is equivalent to 15 times 1.26 square meters. 1.26 times 15. That is equivalent to 18.9 square meters. So 18.9 square meters. Okay. Okay, so after our after getting the area, we can now solve for the number of plywood. So like what we have computed for or used for our woodworks, the commercial length or the commercial size of a plywood is 1.2 meter by 2.4 in SI, and in English it is 4 feet by 8 feet. So we have here the number of plywood is equivalent to the area, total area, which is 18.9 square meters divided by 1.2 times 2.4, and the number is equivalent to divided by 1. That is equivalent to 6.563, and that is equivalent to 7 pieces of 4 by 8 by 1/2 marine plywood. Okay, now for the bracing, like what I have said or I told you, what we use for the dimension is 2 by 2. Okay, so for this one, the available commercial length is 14 feet. So how many 14 feet are we going to use? Now, for in this one, we are using the area method. Okay, so we are using the area method like what we have discussed in woodworks. Now, the factor that we are going to use here in our Formworks for a 2 by 2 is 12.71. This 12.71 board foot per square meter here was derived using 2 by 2 regardless of the length of the or regardless of the commercial length. I repeat, the 2 by 2 here are the 12.71 board foot per square meter was derived using a 2 by 2 lumber. Okay, so the area of the forms is equivalent to, we have here 18.9. So 18.9 square meters times the total board foot. How many board foot is 18.9 square meters? Or how many board foot are we going to use for an 18.9 square meters? So we have here 18.9 square meters times our factor of 12.71 board foot per square meter. Square meter will simply cancel out and we are left with our unit of board foot. So 18.9 times 12.71 is equivalent to 240.219 board foot. Now we are using 2 by 2 by 14 rough lumber. ROL stands for rough lumber. So what would be the factor of rough lumber so that we can divide it to 240 so we can get the number of pieces of 2 by 2 by 14. So for the factor, it is 2 times 2 times 14 divided by 12. So 2 times 2 times 14 divided by 12. And that is equivalent to 4.667 board foot per piece. So to get the number of 2 by 2 by 14, we divide 240.219 board foot is times it is times 4.667 board foot per piece. No. Wait. It should be divide. No, it's not multiplication. It is division. By unit analysis na lang. So, we have here 4.667 board foot per piece. Board foot will cancel out. Therefore, the number of 2 by 2 by 14 is equivalent to 219 divided by 4.667. That is equivalent to 51.472 pieces. Pieces of 2" by 2" by 14 feet rough lumber. But do we have 51.472? No. So we round it up to 52 pieces of 2" by 2" by 14 feet rough lumber. Are we done? No, we're not yet done. So here we need to get the board foot because sa market ang bayaran natin and the unit for wood is board foot. So how are we going to do that? So the board foot here is equivalent to 52. So that is 52 times 2 times 2 times 14 divided by 12. That is equivalent to 242.667 board foot. Now, we have a decimal, so we round it up to whole number. And that is equivalent to 243 board foot. So this is the final answer. So the final answer would be 52 pieces of 2" times 2" times 14 feet rough lumber of 243 board foot. Now let's say for the costing, for the cost, the board foot is at, let's say, 45 pesos. 45 pesos per board foot. Now the cost here would be 243 board foot times 45 pesos per board foot. So board foot will cancel out. So 243 times 45, and that is equivalent to 10,935 pesos. So this would be the costing in order to buy this 52 pesos. So hindi natin gagamitin itong decimal. What we're going to use is the whole number. Now for scaffolding, for footing, for footing, hindi tayo gumagamit ng scaffolding. Normally, if it is a ground level footing, okay, bago magtatambak. Pag nagkaroon naman ng excavation, hindi. Pag nagkaroon tayo ng excavation, that's the time we don't use the scaffolding. Now uh, for for ground level na footing, yung meron kasi yung ganun ground level na footing saka tinatabunan, saka magkakaroon ng embankment. So nagkakaroon tayo ng scaffolding dito lang. Okay, and that's very minimal. You can do that on site. Okay? So okay, now what if sa site kasi sir, what may magtatanong, sir, bakit yung iba sa site, if this is the excavation, may mga hindi gumagamit. May mga hindi gumagamit ng formworks. Now, that would happen if the soil is very much intact. Okay? If the soil is quite sandy o yung nag-erode siya, ang mangyayari niyan, yung excavation natin would look like this. Okay? And if ganyan yung nangyari, then saka tayo maglalagay dito ng formworks. That's when we are going to place here formworks. Okay? But if the excavation is like this, may mga nagpa-practice na pag the excavation is like this because the soil is very much intact, ang mangyayari, lalagyan na lang dito ng gravel bedding. By the way, this also has gravel bedding. So, we are going to place gravel bedding here. Then, the dimension of the excavation is the same as the dimension of the footing. So, that would be 1 meter here by 1 meter here. So, diretso, concrete, pouring. Ganun yung nangyayari. Okay? But if the soil is not very stable, kung saan nag-erode siya, papasok siya sa sa ating concrete, then that's the time we do excavation with slope, then we place formworks. Dito, hindi na nilalagyan ng formworks. And imagine, if that would be the size of if the size of your footing and the size of your excavation is the same, how are you going to remove your formworks? Okay? So, yung iba, sa practice, hindi na naglalagay dito ng formworks. But it is safe, it is safe if we include the formworks for the footing in our estimation.